Welcome to Exploration Overland. My name's Zach, and if you guys have clicked on this video, it's because the thumbnail has enticed you because you want to know, is the Long Range America fuel tank worth it? We're gonna find out, so stay tuned, guys. So, if you can't tell behind me, I am currently in the middle of my Colorado adventure. Actually, I'm at the tail end of my Colorado adventure. That video will have come out a little bit ago. And right back there is our camp. We are at Taylor Lake here in Colorado, and we are over 11,000 feet up in elevation. And it has been an awesome adventure, but we're not here to talk about that adventure. You want to see that, go click that video. We're here to talk about the Long Range America fuel tank. If you don't know what Long Range America is, they are a company that makes either auxiliary fuel tanks for off-road vehicles, or they make replacement bigger endurance style tanks that hold a lot more fuel for your adventure. We're talking about this in this video because I have a Long Range America fuel tank. I have, for the Jeep Wrangler JL, I have their 17-gallon auxiliary fuel tank. What that means is it is a separate fuel tank put under the driver's side or the left-hand side of the Jeep in that open space. That is a 17-gallon spare fuel tank that has a transfer pump where you push the button and it transfers fuel over to the main tank. That is what they have available for the Jeep Wrangler JLs. They also have them available for the Gladiator in the same sort of concept. It's an auxiliary fuel tank. But we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty of this. You know, the price pointing of this all. How's it been working? Issues that have arisen, and is it worth thinking about or even purchasing? So before we get over to the Jeep and start talking about that, let's get into just a few things right off the bat. First off, if you're expecting a how-to video, this isn't it. I did not install that. When I wanted to buy the auxiliary fuel tank, I went to one of the installers that the Long Range America site has marked as installers for their fuel tanks. I went to somebody because I was not messing with the fuel system. I did not want to mess with it on my own. Also, trying to do it on the ground would be very, very challenging. It was easier to have them do it on a lift. It took them, I think it took them all of 10 hours to do the whole installation, and it was done. And it, for what it is, I've had no issues with the actual fuel tank itself. Like, it's been working very well out on the trails. So I'm glad that I didn't mess with it. Next, let's get into the price. These fuel tanks are over $2,000. They're more around the lines of like $2,500, if not a little bit more, depending on if it's on sale and where you're getting it from. I went to my four-wheel drive shop. They ordered it for me. They installed it. They did all that. But these fuel tanks are not cheap. In total, for me to have someone else install this was about $5,000. So that was the fuel tank, installation, labor, all that. It's about $5,000 for this auxiliary 17-gallon fuel tank to be installed on the Jeep. Now that we've kind of got those things out of the way, let's get over to the Jeep, talk about the fuel tank a little more in depth. All right, welcome to camp. This is where we are camping for the evening. We have Taylor Lake right behind us. All right, the fuel tank, because we are getting into the fuel tank. Let me shut those. The fuel tank sits right up under here. Don't worry, I'm gonna bring you guys in closer. It sits right up under the driver's side like I told you guys. And its whole purpose is to have spare fuel so you can go out longer without the need of, in a sense, jerry cans, having all that extra stuff. It's all kind of tucked up underneath in a tank already. And like I said before, it is a transfer pump. So you press a button and it transfers the fuel from that tank to the main tank so that you can keep going. You can do this on the go, you can do this stationary, but you can transfer the fuel over. How this thing gets filled is through the main fuel port. It uses the fuel port already on here. You fill it up. When they install it, they cut it, they put basically like a Y or a T section into it, and it fills both tanks up at the pump at the same time. So in total, you're putting around 38 gallons of fuel into the Jeep, because my Jeep, the main tank is 21 gallons. Add 17 more to it, you get about 38 gallons of fuel put into the tank, or into the Jeep altogether. So not only can you go further, you do add some extra weight to it, but it is kind of spread out under the bottom, which is very helpful. I have been able to go over 500 miles on the trails using this system. It's been great to just press the button and it fills it back up, and I can just literally go even farther without having to worry about getting fuel. And I have used it traveling to the destinations. That was the main point of getting this tank for me, was getting to the destination. Normally the Jeep drank fuel like it was going out of style, getting 8 miles to the gallon or less. Great. If there's a headwind, I may get 100 miles on a normal tank of fuel. With this, I can at least get almost 200 miles. So that was the main purpose behind it. It wasn't for the adventuring part, it was to actually get to the destination without having to fill up every almost 100 miles, because that became very, very costly in that essence. And so far, in terms of the tank, or the system itself, it has worked well. It transfers the fuel when I need it to. It has taken a bit of a beating underneath that Moab. It's got some scratches on it, but it actually held up pretty fairly, I have to be honest. It's not too bad underneath. That's about the extent of the good. I'm sorry, it just kind of is. Right now I'm having a lot of issues with certain parts of the tank itself and the system. First off, I've already replaced the fuel pump, the transfer pump that pumps it over. I've already had to replace it after 6 months. The original one died. Now there is a 1-year warranty on the pumps from Long Range America, and they'll send you a new pump, which then you have to install all that, and you're good to go. This is the first trip with the new pump. On the end of my Washington, Oregon, the Pacific Northwest trip, is when the pump died. It worked all the way up till then, it died. After 6 months of lots of use, granted, it was used a lot, it did die. It's kind of annoying. So if I'm looking at this almost every 6 months, I'm gonna have to replace the fuel transfer pump on it. There are other options out there. There are, universal aftermarket pumps. That's basically the pump that came with it. The issue runs into is a lot of these aftermarket pumps, the universal pumps, the pump that came with it, they're dry pumps. They're not self-priming. So as it's pulling fuel, it's dry, spinning the motor, basically burning itself out little by little. That's what happened with the old pump that I just replaced. It burned itself out from that. Now you can get a self-priming pump. It costs more. A lot of the big issues are with these transfer pumps is they're not in constant use. They're designed to be constantly used as a fuel pump. And when you're not transferring fuel all the time, and then when you need to, it just starts to burn them out. That was the first kind of real issue I've ran into with it. The second issue, which is a big one, which isn't stated on their website, it's not stated in the instructions, it's not stated anywhere, and you kind of find out if you're paying attention. I didn't until I took this in to have the fuel pump replaced at my 4-wheel drive shop, and they pointed it out. If your Jeep is stock, chances of what I'm about to tell you happening is probably not going to be large. AE, stock height, no lift, no bigger tires, no larger flex angles, ability to flex out. You might not have this issue. If your Jeep is lifted, bigger tires, you like to actually use your Jeep on an adventure and you get a little flexy, this more than likely is going to happen to you. And that is the drive shaft is going to start to eat the tank. Yes, I heard me. It is eating the damn tank. And I mean the back end of the drive shaft where it connects to the rear axle, that CV joint and the drive shaft, when the right side of the Jeep is in full flex, it is shoving the drive shaft over because it's getting flexy, and as you start moving, it grinds in to the tank. Did not know this. Didn't know this was a thing. My four-wheel drive shop pulled me back to take a look, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. At least one of the areas. But it has started gouging in 2 different spots. Massive gouges into the tank, and eventually it will eat itself through and basically put a hole in, and you're just going to have fuel that leaks out all over. I looked up if this was a common problem, this, that, or the other. Apparently, nobody has really been saying anything about it if it is. But with this Jeep being 3.5 inches taller, that drive shaft angle's a little different. So as it's coming back, as that weight shifts, it is eating the tank. It has put 2 massive gouge marks in it. It has thoroughly pissed me off because I didn't know that, 1, this was happening, and 2, most people don't leave their Jeep stock and go adventuring. This is I would say a pretty budget-friendly, decent-sized rig built out in a moderate fashion with 35s, 3.5-inch lift. It's not crazy, but I like to take this thing all sorts of places, and doing simple trails like this out here on the flat tops and stuff, it has been cutting into the tank. And I know it has been cutting into the tank because I've had to fix the tank. You're going to see one of the spots where I fixed it, and you'll see the actual fix on the other spot. So I'm going to describe it real quick before you guys see it. I had to take some JB Weld and fill in those spots because according to my four-wheel drive shop, they're reaching out with Long Range America. I haven't heard anything back yet, but more than likely that won't be covered under warranty because the Jeep isn't, it's been modified because it's lifted. We'll see if that's true or not. I don't know yet. I'm waiting to hear back. However, I had to take some JB Weld and fill in the 2 giant gashes on the fuel tank. One, just to add some protection back in there and fill in those spots so that it wouldn't get worse. And then I took, and the thickness of it can be varied, but I took some 1/4-inch aluminium, sorry, I like saying aluminium, and I cut it in half into nice, they're like, I don't know, 5 inches by 3 inches, little rectangles, and I JB welded them to the tank in those 2 spots because there's the only 2 spots that are cutting into it. One was hit so much on these trips, on this trail, that it fell off. Thankfully, it hasn't, the drive shaft hasn't hit the spot where the JB Weld actually is, so far so good. The other one, the drive shaft has been cutting into the aluminium, into the little block. And don't get me wrong, I know I've taken away some of its movement space in a sense of where it would move by making it a 1/4 inch, but I made it a 1/4 inch so that I knew it was going to do that, and so that it wouldn't just cut through that block and hit right to the tank again. But here in a second, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. This, right now, has become the biggest issue with this system. And the reason behind that is because I don't know what to do. I could possibly change out the drive shafts, try and get it to where the pinion angle's a little different to help go with the actual lift on the Jeep, things like that. I could. That's a lot of money too that I'd have to spend to fix something that should have been noted on the Long Range America site. Or I either have to keep putting JB Weld and stuff on there and hope that eventually it holds up or it's going to break. And the third option is I remove the shit altogether. I am juggling with options right now because didn't know this, and I went on those several trips, kept gouging it. Now I know because that plate's there, I can feel every time the drive shaft hits the tank. Every time, doesn't matter what kind of flex this thing goes through, it hits the damn tank. Which puts me in that predicament. Because I like adventuring, I like getting out here and seeing things. I'm not a mall crawler. The tank's main purpose for me was to get to the destination, not for the adventure. And now it's limiting and messing with my adventure. So, I'm in a debate right now on what I need to do. It's going to be addressed one way or another, but I don't know. So, is the tank actually worth it? In my opinion, in theory, it's great. It serves a purpose. If your Jeep is stock and you never intend to do anything to your Jeep, it could be really, really good. In my honest opinion, after 6 months of owning it, I think it has been a bigger pain than what it was actually worth. It was something I was trying. You don't know until you actually try it. And it was a lot of money for something that Long Range America has a list this long of their warranty stuff. And it's all limited warranty. So they tried to cover their ass in every which way, shape, and form to not cover their product. So we'll see if they actually get back to my four-wheel drive shop about this. But I have a strong feeling I'm going to be left up shit creek without a paddle trying to fix this. So, yeah, it's up to you. I personally would never buy this again. I can't recommend this to anybody. That obviously, it's not a sponsor. I don't have sponsors for this. I wouldn't recommend this. I can't look at you all and say, yes, you should go out and get one. I can't do that because I've had the fuel pump die after 6 months, and this has happened within a 6-month time period with the tank. In my opinion, it's not worth it. That's just my opinion. Opinions, like y'all know, are like boo-boos. And everyone has one. That's mine. There are probably people out there that love the tank. They have had no issues with it. I love the tank, don't get me wrong. Having that extra fuel underneath there, no jerry cans, press a button and it transfers, wonderful. These issues really, really outweigh the pros. Because not only is it the drive shaft eating the tank, it's damaging the drive shaft. So, it's up to you on whether you want to do it. So let me go and show you underneath the Jeep. Alright, welcome to Under the Jeep. So, first off, CV joint of the drive shaft. Drive shaft. You can already see kind of where it's been eating at the bolts and this little ring section of the drive shaft. Sorry, I had to get under here a little better, but it's a little hard. So this is one of the plates. This is where the other plate was that fell. Gash number 1 is somewhere under all this JB weld. Gash number 2 is exactly where this gash is. Underneath this plate, covered in JV weld. This drive shaft shoves over and hits it both here and here. The reason I put metal plates on here is because my four-wheel drive shop told me that I probably need to come up with something that blocks the drive shaft from hitting the tank. Well, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it. It's a little hard. Up here is the bottom of the Jeep. Yeah, you can't really mount any plating up there to come down as a shield over this. So the only other thing that they could recommend and that I could think that would be actually doable was putting extra plating in front of where it's hitting. And I will try and show you guys, but you can see all this shiny new metal. And right here, let's see if I can get you guys in here a little better. You can see just how much that's carved out in this 5-day trip on stuff that isn't Moab. We've had some minor flexing out here. This has pretty much happened in the past day and a half. And every time this hits that, I can feel it through the drive shaft into the driver's seat of the Jeep. But that is what I'm dealing with. As you can see, the JB weld covers in the hole nicely. It's nice and protected. And this plate, there used to be one there, it was hit so many times it fell off. And this one so far has been holding on okay. But this is what I'm running into. But this is what the tank looks like underneath. It just sits there. You can see there's some gouges or scratches in it from Moab. But, you know, you can see that the drive shaft isn't completely at too crazy of an angle. And they do have a little cutout up there for the sleeve of the drive shaft, but not for the rest. So it begs the question, what would happen if the drive shaft would have been at its normal angle from the factory, and you got flexi and the drive shaft still would move back and forth? Because the drive shaft doesn't hit this right here is the main tank. It doesn't hit this. It only hits this. And it was installed by one of their installers, and they put it in the spot where it's supposed to go. So I don't know. Just don't know. But that is what issue I'm running into under here. Well, now you guys have seen what I've been talking about. That is the issue that I have come to, that I am dealing with. So, like I said, you guys make your own decision. Is it worth it? I don't think so. Thank you all for joining me in this video. I know it's a bit of a negative video, but it's one that I have found no other videos really on it that weren't either sponsored or people talking up a storm about how great it is because they've had no issues. I've had an issue, so I'm bringing it up. But thank you all for joining me in this video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You guys are what makes this channel happen, and it helps me out immensely. But until then, guys, take care.